On this day in history, 1848, the first women's rights convention, called by Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia C. Mott, was held in Seneca Falls, New York. Oh, ladies, how you have gained the upper hand. Is it really enjoyable to watch guys try their best to figure you out? Sometimes I'll be with a buddy and say, dude, that girl's like a Prius. There are absolutely no signs that she's turned on right now. Live from Wattpad Nation, it's the Corner Booth. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 18, entitled The Path of Least Resistance. And we're talking all about plotting and, sometimes, hey, why not take the easy way out with plotting? I know that a lot of people struggle with it. I am one in particular. But I do want to introduce you to our amazing panel this evening for what we call the High Five. We have Rita Kovach, Michelle Hayes, Kelly Ann Blount, and Ashlyn McCown with us tonight. And so, like many of the High Five scenarios that I give the panel, this one was taken in several different ways. Some people chose to make it a little bit more difficult than it was. Resistance, and we're talking all about plotting, and sometimes, hey, why not take the easy way out with plotting? I know that a lot of people struggle with it. That's really strange. Hearing that kind of an echo. But thank you. Okay, all right. I think we're good now. We're good, Kelly?
No, I can't hear you. I still hear you announcing me.
Ooh. Try to close that window, if you can. Sorry, everybody. Oh, not our window. Okay, so anyways, while Kelly rejoins us, I think I said this last episode, we're finding new ways to screw up this broadcast every single week. But as Kelly comes back, I want to tell you what we did this week for the High Five. This week, I sent everybody, hey, you can use 3 sentences this week to describe another panelist. But the catch is, we're going to do this pangram style. So within those 3 sentences, you have to use all the letters of the alphabet. So I'm going to start with Miss Michelle Hayes and work my way around. Michelle, tell us who you have to describe and then give us your pangram, please.
I have Rita. And here's my pangram. Alrighty. Rita is a masterfully skilled and a highly respected author. She is bodacious and zesty in her craft, and her novels wrap the reader in a hold of quivering excitement, whilst passion and love strum the pages. Her qualities and her talent are to be commended, but also let us not forget she is a wonderfully lovely and well-composed, kind-hearted human being that I am glad to know and have befriended.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Michelle, you just made us all look bad.
Oh. All right, and Rita, who did you have, and what is your pangram?
Okay, so I had Kelly, and here it goes. She's an amazing writer dabbling in horror. Her extraordinary gifts are only outshined by her cheerful personality, and it's no joke that the view from her house is quite spectacular.
Aw, that's so nice.
I like that one. Very nice. And Miss Kelly Ann Blount, she actually gave herself a little extra homework because she thought she had to write 3 different pangrams. And I don't know if you've ever had to write a pangram, but it's kind of difficult to do it only in 1 sentence. So Kelly, I'm guessing you had Ashlyn. She's one of the only ones left. And who did you have, or what do you have for us as far as your pangram?
All right, so I have 3 sentences that use all 26 letters of the alphabet. Okay, the story of Ashlyn quickly grabbed my attention with her excellent and positively jazzy stories on Wattpad. She has won a Wattie Award and a Collector's Dream Award for her beautifully haunting story, Stained Glass Souls, which is filled with vivid, picturesque imagery, emotionally jerking scenes, and characters which maximize Ashlyn's literary talent. Oh, I had well-written characters, sorry. Can't miss any letters. Last one. I'm so jazzed to have such an excellent, witty, intelligent, and quite frankly a great Wattpad featured author as one of our featured authors participating in the Wattpad Block Party.
Oh, that's so sweet. That was good.
Yeah. It's just so lovey-dovey right now. I love it. It's awesome. And Miss Ashlyn, what do you got for us?
Okay. Full disclosure, I'll apologize in advance because mine are terrible. Okay. Michelle is a writer of dark literature populated by fallen angels and around half a dozen beautiful men. She's a bubbly, jovial panelist on the corner booth, quick to laugh and quick to support. Within her world of words, right and wrong coexist.
Ooh.
Oh, that was good.
Like,
Very nice. Always impressive, Ashton. Always impressive. And now we're going over to the part of the broadcast, the best part of the broadcast, in my opinion. It's called Cream or Sugar, and it's where we put you, Wattpad Nation, in the spotlight. These panelists kind of dish out on what they really, really like this week, and what's either grabbed them as far as their attention and their engagement, because they do engage with these stories, and it's either the cream that has risen to the surface, or somebody who's fairly well established, and we just want to give them a little bit of sugar because we love them. And so I'm going to start in the same rotation. Miss Michelle, who do you have for cream or sugar?
Okie dokie. I have a cream today, and the author's name is Yvette Russell, and the title of her book is The Psychic Next Door. Brief synopsis. The protagonist's name is Rachel, and basically after she discovers that her boyfriend has cheated on her, she rents a new apartment, and bizarre things begin to occur. She hears voices, feels the presence of something, and to top that off, her personal belongings go missing. She then starts to question her sanity, however, soon realizes that something is actually hunting her. Someone next door, aka the psychic, who is this hot tamale of a man, is bound to save her, yet he himself is a mystery. It's really fun, and it's a thrilling read. Hope you guys check it out.
Thank you so much, Miss Michelle. Miss Rita, who do we have for cream or sugar?
My first shout out is to the horror novel Fear of the Dark from Godhand. Set in Denver, this is a hardcore read that's not for the faint of heart, filled with terror, occult, ghosts, and actually some kick-ass leading ladies. The author is also the admin for the paranormal community on Wattpad, so it's actually at Paranormal Community if you want to look it up. So she knows what she's talking about, or rather writing about, so definitely check out Fear of the Dark. My second shout-out has a brief backstory, if you'll just let me explain. So 2 days ago, Wattpad user Emily Slough, who goes by mslough, S-L-O-U-G-H, on both Wattpad and Twitter, offered up a challenge. She tweeted, and I quote, "At Wattpad, I challenge you to promote at least 200 undiscovered authors who have less than 150 followers for 1 month. Hashtag give undiscovered a chance." Wattpad responded very quickly with, quote, "Challenge accepted, mslough. Hashtag Wattpad undiscovered." So needless to say, this hashtag quickly exploded, and rightly so, because many people have been saying lately, and I think we've all heard this, that it seems like only well-known Wattpad authors are promoted, and it's hard for new users to get their name out there. So in order to support this initiative, I put out a tweet offering a one-chapter critique for anyone with less than 150 followers and 1,000 reads on their work. And I got 3 responses pretty quickly. And the first one I read was a short story called The Beach House from Wattpad user Yacht1337. So this is a short story is about a young couple looking for a wedding venue who end up at the groom's beach house that has an awful surprise, it turns out. This was a quick read, but it was very well written, and it was intense, so you won't be able to put it down until you're done. It also just underscored the need for promoting undiscovered works because the author, in my opinion, did an excellent job, which others would benefit from reading. So those are my shout-outs today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rita. That's awesome. That's an awesome hashtag. And it's so great that, people who are undiscovered are getting that kind of exposure. And, people don't get too discouraged because last November I had 0 followers. So, it's just be patient with it and then just, do something great and do something that you believe in. And I guarantee you're going to see something come out of your work. You just grind it out, more or less. Miss Kelly Ann Blount, what do you got?
Okay, so I just started reading this today, and it just really grabbed my attention. So I'm reading What If Cinderella Never Left Her Shoe by The Lazy Prince on Wattpad. I'm really enjoying it. I'm excited to see where the story goes, and I wanted to read the synopsis for everyone just to give you an idea of what it is all about. So it says, Remus hates the idea of a season of love that's coming near. He knows he'll be alone again. He tries to forget about the romance until he finds himself in a Cinderella-like moment during their high school's masquerade prom. He has no plan of dancing until he sees a girl in a light blue ball gown. He's captivated and lost in the moment. Everything is going well until she has to run away by the strike of midnight. But what if Cinderella never left her shoe? What will happen now? So I like fairy tales. I think they're really sweet. So I'm excited to read that. And then also, the Lazy Prince has What if Ariel never got her voice back, and What if Snow White never bit the apple. So I'm excited to check out this work and to see where it goes. So
that's awesome.
Some sugar.
I think it's really cool. Like, I mean, I always kind of thought of Cinderella as like an awkward story to begin with, because Prince Charming, I mean, evidently he has a foot fetish, and like, I mean, he's got to be a little intellectually slow because he can't recognize Cinderella without her shoes. Like, it's just, dude, what's up with you? So Ms. Ashley McCown, what do we got?
Okay. My first one's actually a contest entry. It's called I Never Promised You a Moon Colony by Amber K. Bryan at Amber K. Bryan on Wattpad. So this is one of the winning entries for Margaret Atwood's Future Library Contest, responding to the prompt to give advice to the people of 2011-14, I think. It's short, charming, and extremely thought-provoking. Wisdom is dished out in these sort of small, subtle pieces. The writing voice just draws you in, and she has this gentle humor about her that leaves you unable to stop reading. And once you reach the end, I felt this profound sense of loss, because you can only experience reading something for the first time once, and it was one of those stories that you just kind of wish you could read for the first time over and over, so I'd highly recommend it. My second one is it's Cream it's called Ordinary to Extraordinary by Stosh at Sparkling Dews, who's actually part of the Block Party. And it's a fan fiction. The story's a fan fiction of the Wattpad Block Party, which I just found kind of a very novel and adorable idea. It's just very encouraging to see a young writer so motivated and passionate about the community. She's very active. She's amiable on social media, and the idea behind sort of charting her journey and her progress to the present is a very interesting look at another writer's journey. So I would just recommend that you kind of check that out and support a young author.
Thank you so much, Ashlyn. Absolutely. And now we are going over to the entree, and like I said, we're talking about The Path of Least Resistance, which is all about plotting. Why do we struggle with plot? Why not shoot straight and do a little thing called hope? And so this week we have, some questions, and please, please, please do not shy away from asking them using our hashtag on Twitter, TCBWatt, or you can join in on the live chat that's going on right now. It's taking me a while for it to load, but finally I got it back. Lucy, Melody, Ricky, Mary L. Tabor, hello ma'am, Melody Shalern, Camille Funk, yeah, hey Melody, how you doing? I hear she's in Maui, which is kind of awesome. Momo, Guillaume, Lindsay Lippincott, hello dear, and all sorts of other people. Lisa, hi, how are you doing? Anytime that you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask them. You can ask the broad general question, and we would dish it out to our panel, or actually to a panelist themselves. So if you want that, just tag them in whatever question you have, and we'll get that over to them. But now we are going to start with question number 1. When plotting a story, what do you struggle with most? How do you move past the roadblocks? And I'm going to start with Miss Kellyanne Blount.
All right. So I had to give a lot of thought to this question. I tend not to get stuck on the big story points, but instead on small details, and then I drive myself insane. So I might get stuck on like a specific sentence, and I will write the paragraph with maybe, say, 3 or 4 sentences over and over and over and over again, and then half the time I get back to the exact same sentence that I started with, and I get really annoyed. So typically I'll have like a loose idea of what I want to happen in the chapter, and I let the ideas flow while writing. But if I am really stuck, there's a couple different things that I do, and I might try and take a short break. One of my number 1 go-tos is to close my eyes, try and picture the scene and what I want to have happen, And if I still can't see like what's going to happen next and, you know, the consequences of my character's actions, and if I can't figure out what makes sense in my mind or what sensory details might help my readers feel like they're in the story, then I might get up, take a short walk. I might try and replay the scene in my head a little bit later. And if I'm not getting anywhere, I might take a break and watch like TV or a movie or something in the genre of which I'm writing to try and get my creative juices flowing. Or I might pick up a book from another author, especially if it's in the same genre, to help. But it can be tricky. But the number one thing I find is not to get frustrated with yourself, and to take some deep breaths and realize that your work in progress will always be there. So stay calm, stay level-headed, and the answers will eventually come to you.
I think that's like one of the hardest things to do sometimes is stay level-headed, because I know a couple times it's just like, oh man, I give up. I'm done. Ms. Ashley McCowan, what do you got for us?
Okay. So plot, I find plot to be like one of those alternate ending books where you never know, or where you choose your own path. You never know where you're going to end up, and sometimes it isn't always in a good place. I personally, if I take a wrong turn, I accumulate upwards of 10,000 words of backtext, and fixing this requires a lot of time, frustration. So as I've transitioned between different genres, does anyone else hear an echo? Is it just me?
Yeah, slight. I want to. I mean, I don't want to throw her under the bus, but I think it's coming from Kelly's.
Oh no!
Kelly, can you try to mute your microphone really quick?
Yeah. Okay, it's muted.
Okay. We can still hear you, so I'm thinking that it's not muted. Okay. Now try something, Ashlyn.
Okay. Yeah, I don't hear it anymore.
Sorry, Kelly.
Okay.
I'm not muted anymore, though.
Oh, that's so weird. What is going on? Okay, keep going, keep going.
All right, so my problem with plot is that every time I write a different book, I never know what challenge I'm going to encounter. So for each new set of sort of circumstances and settings, it's like a new set of problems. And to this predicament of the problems and of all the problems occurring in the middle, which happens to me, I don't know if that happens to anyone else, most of my problems occur in the middle, I can only give the advice that National Novel Writing Month has given me, which is to remember where you are, remember how far you've come, and force yourself to keep writing.
Thank you so much. We're still getting an echo, and now Kelly's gone, and I'm kind of concerned. Michelle, try muting yours real quick.
Okay.
Sorry, everybody. We're just trying to give you the best possible broadcast. Yeah, I think it's Michelle. Because Rita, you can turn off yours if you want. Okay, like I said, brand new ways to screw up this broadcast, people. So, Michelle, if you are answering a question, then you can unmute. But if somebody else is answering a question, if you can mute your mic.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I'm sorry. We'll figure this out later.
Okay.
I promise. I promise.
No worries.
Okay, so awesome. Now we are actually going to move over to Miss Rita.
Okay, so in terms of plotting, I found that my problems depend actually on the type of book I'm working on. So like for my historical fiction, which I'd say was very story-driven, I knew the main conflict, obstacles, and resolution from the start. What I didn't really know were the details. So when I started writing the first chapter, I think I knew the leading lady's first name and where she lived, and I actually just made up the rest as I went along. As a funny aside, I actually picked Anna's hometown of Portobello, Panama, because I knew that I wanted to set the story in the Caribbean, and she had to be from a Central or South American country. So I did, as all good authors do, and pulled up Google. I looked on a virtual map, and the name Portobello caught my eye because not only does it remind me of the mushroom, yes, I'm a big nerd like that, but also of London's Portobello Market. And, you know, as I said last week, London's one of my favorite cities. So it also means beautiful port, so I loved it already. And doing more research, I found that there was actually a military fort in the city, which fit perfectly with my story. So it was meant to be. Okay, so back to plotting. I honestly did only name everything and everyone else as they showed up in the story, and I actually had no idea what the ship was going to be called and got away with not having to name it until chapter 5, which was about 15,000 words in. And at that point, it just came to me. So letting the details unfold organically can also help you avoid info dumping or lingering on backstory at unnecessary points in the narrative. It's almost as if you're revealing details bit by bit to yourself as the author, just as you're writing the same way you'd want your readers to discover things that are within the finished book. With that said, in my newest work in progress, I'm having the opposite issue. I think it's because it's more character-driven rather than story-driven, and because of this, I spent half a day yesterday on Pinterest looking for the perfect cast, because I don't think I can start writing this book until I can nail down what the 5 male and 5 female leads look like, just to get that image in my head, which then I'll use to tie to their personalities. So along with this, I feel like I need to, even give them names at this point, which, is totally opposite of what I did with the other book. So with all that said, I think that to move past the roadblocks, I totally agree with Kelly. Don't stress and let the story come to you, and if you're stuck, just roll with it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the name of the game. That's why it's the path of least resistance. If you're stuck, why not just lean into something and make it a little bit easier on yourself? Miss Michelle, you can unmute your microphone now and tell us what you got.
Okay, unmuted. Okay, this is what I have. I tend to battle with organizing how everything will fall in line together with all the details I place in the book. I want to deliver the plot well and without seeming messy or overcluttered. I like a strong plot and one that has emotion and surprise seeped into it. So sometimes I have to stop myself when I want to add another something to the mix if I feel it will just convolute what I already have. I have lots of sticky notes, old school style, that break the story down by character, traits, etc. And that does help me when I get stuck, but also gives me some sort of sanity and comfort having that organization there. But when I do have the roadblocks, which trust me I do, I take a step back, allow my mind to clear before diving right back in.
Awesome. Yeah, clearing your mind. We have actually done an episode that's all about the hump and the slump, but with plot it's a little bit different because a lot of the times you have characters that are clean and they're rigid, and you're just trying to figure out where you're going to get these characters to go. And like I said, a lot of these panelists have already shared with the fact that there is a myriad of ways to get through it, but first of all, do something you're comfortable with. Second of all, make sure you actually take the step forward. Don't feel like, you need to be at a standstill forever and get discouraged, because it's really, really easy to do, people. We got a question from Melody Chalern. Hello, Melody. Thank you for your question. If you're stuck, do you ever ask your readers what to write? And if they respond, do you consider their answers? I'm going to throw this to Miss Kelly Ann Blount.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I have done this in the past. I've gotten stuck on something, and I might throw out to, my fans, hey, what do you think of this versus this? Or what do you think would happen next? And, if I see an idea that strikes me, I'll incorporate it into my story. But sometimes I find just hearing what other people think kind of gets me out of my my stuck mode, and it helps me to think about, kind of a different way to write it. So you can go both ways for sure. I incorporate my fans a lot of times. I ask for help naming characters. So I'll put it out there on Wattpad or Twitter or my Facebook page, and I'll just say, hey, I've got a nurse. She's 35, blonde hair, brown eyes, and she needs a name, help, first and last, ready, go. And so then I'll take the name that I like the best and I'll put it in my story.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. I mean, seriously, that kind of interaction that actually drives something like a huge component of the story. That's really cool. I'm going to rephrase this question just a little bit different, and it's because the way that it's phrased is actually from our very own Lindsay Lippincott, and I'm going to go over to Ashlyn for this. She says on Twitter, Miss Lindsay, thank you, how often do your readers influence what you write? How much do they influence it?
Okay. Well, I'm not trying to be self-deprecating, but I'm kind of at the point where I don't have enough interactive readers to actually actively influence what I'm writing. So I kind of try not to think about it. I try not to think about my audience, which I might be writing myself into a corner at times, but I feel like it's easier to stay true to my aesthetic than to get kind of wrapped up in what my readers would want to see from me, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, completely. So if you're reading Ash's work, give her a really, really big count of people. She would really appreciate that.
I really would.
Rita, do you have anything to add to that? Because I think it's kind of an interesting question.
I mean, to the question that as it went to Kelly, I kind of feel like, you know, my stories are so personal that even if someone, you know, if I pose that question about, you know, how should the story go, or, you know, what should the characters do in a certain situation, I don't think I could use an answer if it didn't come from me, because it didn't feel like, you know, it's not that personal. It's really hard to explain, but it's like an outsider saying what would happen. Yeah. So that's why I don't even like to pose questions like that. And in terms of like influencing what I write, I do try to, you know, see what the trends are, and when I'm thinking about new ideas for works in progress, it's not that I'm writing to the trends, but I do want what I write to, you know, be wanted or have a reaction. So, you know, that's why I wrote about a pirate story last year, because I was kind of stuck in a rut with what I'd been working on for 3 years, and I wanted to do something that would, you know, get people's attention, and it's my most popular thing right now. So in terms of that, yeah, I think it's nice to kind of know your audience in that respect.
Absolutely. And I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. That's, oh, wow. Yeah, perfect. Miss Rita, we, let's see. There was something, oh man, I lost it. Somebody was saying hi, I think, but I can't find it again. But you're popular, Rita. That's pretty awesome. Miss Michelle, Ricky Pine on Twitter, user hashtag. Thank you, Ricky. I'd like you to answer this question. How do you decide when to run in, I'm sorry, let me start over. How do you decide when to run with a randomly conceived plot thread and when to skip it? And in a parenthetical, he says, a dilemma I often face, especially in fanfic.
Unmute. Sorry, it took me a second. Okay, is this question for me or for Rita?
Yes, for you.
It's for you,
Michelle.
Of course it is. Hold on a second. All right, so how do you decide to, can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Sure, okay. How do you decide when to run with a randomly conceived plot thread and when to skip it?
Whatever feels right. If it feels right, go with it. If not, trash it.
Well, there you go, Ricky. The brilliance of Michelle Hayes, right there.
Well, I mean, really, think about it. You don't need to overthink things, really. I think that's our problem sometimes. Writers we're a rare lot, period. So when we're overthinking, that's not a good thing. Sometimes you just got to take a step back, look at the question quick. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, it's not that difficult.
Well, how long did it take you to learn that lesson, Michelle?
Oh, well, I'm 40 now, so several years.
So it's not something that comes immediately. So, I mean, this is just kind of, you know, Michelle's experiences. Yeah, it's definitely a curve. So
really.
Take the advice, people. Right. I mean,
sorry, I just short and sweet. If you like it, go with it. If not, ditch it.
And I guess that kind of goes with her advice, too. You know, if you like it, take it. If you don't, ditch it. No, I'm just kidding, Michelle. I'm always going to take your advice. What are you talking about? I'm always going to take it. I promise, Michelle. I promise. All right, so we are actually going to scoot over to question number 2. Why do you think some writers overcomplicate plot? What advice can you give to those who have trouble with simplifying? And I'm going to start with Kelly.
All right. So I definitely thought about this a lot. And I think that a big problem, especially with authors, is that we try to be perfect. We strive for perfection while working on our stories, while working on certain scenes, while working even within sentences. And I think once you kind of drop that everything must be perfect, things are really going to work out a lot better for you. Trying to add extra details in a scene just to make your story read better or look better can be dangerous. So my best advice is to write what comes to you, to reread your work immediately, look for simple errors in your grammar, storyline, plotline, etc. If you feel like adding more details in to enhance your story without overcomplication, go for it. And that's, kind of what I do, only I take it a step further. I write my chapter, I reread them once or twice, I look for errors that I've made, and then I immediately post them to Wattpad. So, it's kind of risky. If there's a giant error in there, my fans will definitely let me know. Sometimes I, have like tree instead of 3 or something like that. But I tend to find that if I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to put this up here, my mind kind of kicks into overdrive, and I know that, I got to pull it together. I need to make it look great. And it forces me to simplify and not overthink things, because my thing is I want to write and I want to put it out there for my fans. So I want the authentic story. I want the real me. I don't want it to look like my professional editor has already had it. Well, I mean, I do want it to look like that, but if I just wrote it, like, I want it out there, and I want authentic and true feedback from my fans as well. So I think, just trying not to strive for perfection, and keep in mind, once you get to the end of your story, there is always time to go over it then. There's always time to go through, fix plot holes. You can make a little chart or a graph and make sure, you've hit everything you need to hit and you want everything covered. But when you're writing it, I feel like for me, just getting it down on paper and getting it up on Wattpad is the most helpful. It keeps me accountable to working on my story frequently, and fans appreciate it, and I appreciate them. So hopefully that helps, and just remember, again, take it easy. It does not have to be perfect.
Absolutely. If you're a perfectionist, I mean, there's so many writers that are, simply because of the nature of the craft. But give yourself a little bit of leeway, people. Don't think that it's going to suck right off the bat. Ms. Ashlyn, what do you have to add?
Okay. So concerning overcomplication, I feel like the idea of this great American novel has kind of gotten out of hand, which I'm trying to think how I want to phrase this. I feel like the brunt of pop culture and the majority of what's being kind of pushed at us is that everything has to be more extravagant, everything has to be more dramatic, and I feel like there's a lot of pressure on authors to create something huge, something that can be a blockbuster and be a movie, and I think that the beauty in the details has kind of been forgotten a little bit. So I think that being able to oversimplify and just kind of coax details out of hiding, and you can create something that way that's quiet but it's still powerful. So an example of this is our own panelist, Mary Tabor. She has a book called The Woman Who Never Cooked, and there's a short story in there called Proof, which I highly recommend you read because it's beautiful. The brunt of the book sort of deals with like these little details, like focusing on, it's about one man's thoughts of adultery, so it focuses on like the hands of the woman, or sort of the idea of a bird as he compares it to her. And I feel like if you can make a story out of this and captivate your reader, you can achieve something truly powerful, and you are a truly great writer. And another sort of point for overcomplicating, if you're really struggling, is find the person who tells you when things have gotten out of hand. Just sort of read and rehash your plot points out with them. And don't be afraid of a reality check. So for me, that's my brother. I'll sort of stand there with my notes and like pitch my idea to him. And it's helpful to have that person that can kind of tell you to slow down and sort of rein it in. So, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome that you use your brother, because Lucy Rhodes actually asked, does anyone on the panel have a writing buddy, someone who reads as you write, giving you feedback, advice, help with roadblocks? And so, Ashlyn, is this an older brother?
Yeah. He's not a writer, but...
Does he, I mean, what made you say, hey, will you be, my personal beta reader?
He's very level-headed because he wants to go into history, so he's like very detail-oriented. So I know that he's going to give me good advice. I really trust his advice. So.
That's awesome. It's even cooler that it's a sibling, in my opinion. I mean, can't beg, borrow, steal for those, Miss Rita, if we can get back to the question at hand with, let's see, right here. Why do you think some writers overcomplicate the plot? If you could extend that.
Okay, so I think we tend to overcomplicate the plot because we really, really want the readers to see and feel the story the same way that it's in our heads. And I think that's an impossible goal because everyone obviously brings something different to the table through which they interpret things. And that's both okay and the reason why we should keep things simple. So we don't want to bore the reader or make them feel like we're talking down to them either. Readers are pretty smart people, and there's nothing worse than a writer over-explaining a situation to make what should be an enjoyable form of entertainment into a lecture on how this or that in your story is plausible. Remember that less can be more. This ties a bit back to what we said last week about purple prose, and there's been a really great discussion about what actually is purple prose on the Corner Booth thread in the clubs on Wattpad. But more often than not, you're better off using the least amount of words you can for what you want to say. So think economies of prose. If one word will do instead of 3, go with the 1. If it's unnecessary to tell us what your character looked left or right over his shoulder, then remove the direction. You're not giving stage directions. You're painting a picture.
Thank you so much, Rita. Miss Michelle.
Okay, this is what I have. A writer has many stories they want to tell, so one idea may pop in their brain while writing a specific story, when that thought may suit better for another one later down the road. I don't think it's writer suicide, so to speak. I think it's just a writer that needs to pause for a moment and reflect, read their work, analyze what they have in front of them. But ask yourself, does this piece I just spent countless hours on really need another something, another detail, another explanation, or does this hold its weight in gold already? Remember, you can always go back and revise and revisit what you've written. Just keep it simple and try not to overdo it. That's
Absolutely.
my advice.
And Michelle, I have a few little sub-questions. I like the fact that you said keep it simple, because there is a little expression. It's called KISS, or keep it simple, stupid. It's one way to tackle complications. Do you agree with this? I'm guessing you do. And is there like a specific reason? Can you give it for instance?
For instance, yes, I do believe in KISS. The reason why I do believe in keeping it simple is because why complicate things? I think just like I will piggyback off what Rita said, you don't need to, you can explain the sky and the cornflower blue sky, and you don't have to keep going and going with it. You can explain it in depth with some pretty adjectives in there without killing it. That's my example for that. Is that what you're asking?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm glad that you kind of like push it in the way that adjectives. But in regards to plot, when you're trying to keep a plot simple, and I know that with your story in particular, it kind of weaves into really, really extreme directions, and there's a lot of curves in it, as with the rest of this panel. You don't write flat stories, panel. They have a lot of dimension and a lot of depth. Now, as far as keeping it simple, at some point, just so that you're not getting literary whiplash reading your work, is there a way that you can know when to pull back a little bit, or when to kind of give your audience that much needed breather?
When I'm questioning the sentence or the passage itself. When I start to look at it and I'm thinking that's a little overkill, that's when I pull back, and that's when I start revisiting that passage and deleting. That's what happens. Because when you're writing, just like Kelly said, I mean, you're just writing to write, you're going, and then you have to go back, and then you're reading it, and you're like, oh, too much information. And that's, you don't want to go there as a writer. I think you want to take them there, you want to put them where in the scene that you have written, but you don't want to overkill it either.
Absolutely.
It's simple. Simple but beautiful.
It's a great way of putting it. Thank you so much, Michelle. And let's see, we got a few more questions on the Twitty. We have one from a very good friend of ours. Her name's Camille Eckert. She was on last week's broadcast all about grammar. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. She's pretty awesome on it. We really enjoyed having her. She says, thoughts on subplots? Do you guys plan them beforehand or let them grow naturally? Miss Ashlyn, what do you have to say about that?
Most of mine just kind of appear, which sounds terrible, but I'll just sit down and write, and it's like my story just kind of takes on life of its own. Subplots I try not to plan intentionally, because then I plan too many and I forget them. So I just try to let things happen naturally.
No, I think there's a lot of that you could say about that, as far as progressively being an organic writer, I guess, is a really good way of looking at it. So where you just see something grow, these characters take their own shapes. Ms. Rick, you can add to that one?
Me?
Yes.
Okay.
As far as subplots go, you plan
yeah,
them
no,
beforehand?
I totally agree with Ashlyn. I personally don't plan them out. I mean, unless you're like, writing a mystery and the subplot really has everything to do with your big reveal at the end. Just let it unfold organically, and I think that's the best way that it'll come through on the page as well. It's if you plan too much, it's going to feel forced in the end, and you definitely don't want that.
Have you ever had something, Rita, where it was like you had this one subplot and you really wanted to go there, but then you found a different way to approach it by making it more organic, by either stretching it out or retooling it completely?
I mean, I can't think of an example right now, but I can. I know in general, yes. Like when you think you have a story in your head, and then you start writing, and it turns into something else. I would just go with the something else, and not force your original idea, because again, that's what you seem to have built up to up until that point. And when you're outlining and you have your major plot points, you don't have all those details in your head, and once you start putting it on paper, maybe those original ideas don't work anymore, and that's your subconscious is telling you, no, go in this direction. So I would just go with the flow again and see, and you could always change it back in the end, but why not let your creativity take over?
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest thing, note takers, if you're a compulsive note taker like I am, save your notes. Don't throw them away and think that they're just complete and utter crap, because you might figure out a way to reuse it, either with a different character, or maybe you're just doing something that's shaded a little different as far as thematics go. Miss Kellyanne Blount, we got another question on the Twitter. It is from Archie by Anonymous on Twitter. When stuck between a changing plot and your original idea, how do you assess which path to take?
Okay, that's a good question. I actually had something pretty close to that happen. So I was working on my story under, and I had to think of a way. It ended. My chapters tend to end rather cliffhanger-y. I don't think that's a word, but
it is now. It is now. Trademark Kellyanne Blount.
So I had to think of a way that my two characters we're going to come back together again, and it had to be through a big scene, a big movement. And so I was thinking, she was hiding, Hadley was hiding in the woods, and I'm thinking to myself, well, how is she going to find Caden, or how is Caden going to find her? How are they going to struggle? How is what I want to happen, which I wanted Hadley, spoiler alert, to end up with the gun. If you haven't read that chapter, sorry, I just ruined it for you. So I'm thinking to myself, how can this happen? And so I was thinking, well, I want her to hit him, over the head with like a rock or a stick. So then I started to Google, like, what weapons can you find in the forest? And I was thinking, well, she's kind of weak. She hasn't gotten a lot of food lately, so swinging like a big, heavy stick might not be realistic. Same with like throwing a rock. So then I started thinking about the movies that I like, and I was thinking, you know what? I had this thought of like Katniss being in the tree with the oh gosh, the
Tracker Jackers.
Tracker Jackers, thank you. And I'm thinking, well, I wonder, what I could do. So what I ended up doing, instead of going full-on Hunger Games mode or full-on a line I didn't feel really comfortable with, what I did is I ended up having, she ripped a piece of material off of her her dress and had it in the tree, so she tricked Caden into thinking that she was up there, and then I won't spoil the rest of the scene, but what I basically ended up doing was taking the two ideas and welding them together, essentially, so that they would work. But I definitely think, when you get into too many details, too many subplots, too many facts that you want to achieve in your story, or points, I should say, you want to achieve in your story, sometimes you can write yourself into a corner. So I recommend just, going with what you think works best, and then if you have a better idea, try and either use that or mix them together, and you might really like the result.
Yeah, you're not going to know if you don't try, right? You got to make
right.
it sound. All right, now we are over to the portion of the broadcast that we like to call Pass the Salt. It is a way to add a little bit of extra flavor to these broadcasts at 140 characters or less. And I'm going to start with Miss Ashlyn McCowan.
Okay, mine's short tonight. It's learn to embrace empathy.
And Empathy. It's one of those virtues that is kind of goes unnoticed for a while until you really, really need it. Please, please understand me, please. Miss Michelle.
Alrighty, hold on one second. Let me get it. Okay. Rejection from agents are like battle scars. Their markings are reminders of never giving up when we finally see our work in print.
That's right, people. Never give up. Ever. Dun, 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 dun.
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. Rita!
Okay, so mine goes along with the Wattpad Undiscovered hashtag. Everyone has to start from the bottom, so remember to pay it forward when you've found your success.
Ooh,
That's so good. I love that.
that was
I
really
love
good.
that. Rita, if there's like a link for like the undiscovered, if there's something like collecting them or anything like that, if you would like put a link with our hashtag so we can advertise it ourselves, I think that's just brilliant. So good. Miss Kelly.
All right, so my reader, good gracious, my quote comes from Stephen Almond from Writer's Digest. And he said, all readers come to fiction as willing accomplices to your lies, such as the basic goodwill contract made the moment we pick up a work of fiction. So it kind of goes with those of you who are struggling to simplify your work, because in a way it's like you might be trying so hard to prove something or to make something make sense, and your readers are already ready to go on the journey with you, and they don't want to overthink, and they don't want to overthink those steps that you've put into making your amazing book. So just keep in mind they're ready to go on the adventure with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And now I want to get to something very, very important. Last week we had a little challenge to win a Wattpad mug. If you remember, it was about your grammar pet peeves. And so I put them all in a little hat in an app called Names in a Hat. And I will be choosing one right now. Miss Angela Curio, if you will please send me your address via direct message on Twitter or private message on Wattpad, I will get you a Wattpad mug. Congratulations. And this week's challenge, if you would like to win a Wattpad mug, is very simple. What is your version of our version of the broadcast called Pass the Salt? It's very simple. It's just your opinion in 140 characters. An opinion that has to do with writing. It could be tied to the theme of this broadcast or any ones that you've seen in the past, but we would love to hear what you think about Wattpad and all of the things that it touches. So we really look forward to reading those. You can either leave them in the live chat window here. If you're watching the live broadcast, thank you 18 viewers who are watching live. You can put it in the comments if you're watching the recording, or you can use our hashtag TCBWatt anytime during the week, and we'll do another drawing next week. So thank you so much. I am now going to push over. We got about 12 minutes left. That was a really fast hour. There is something amazing happening in the month of August on the Corner Booth, and it's all going to be about the Watties 2015. We will have so much more information for you. It will be an entire a series of episodes, and it's going to kind of lead us out of season 1 of the Corner Booth, which means we will finally have at the end 25 episodes. Panel, that's just crazy to me. But we will have 25 episodes in season 1, moving to season 2 after a small break. Just expect maybe a week or 2 weeks. We won't leave you guys hanging too long because we love coming here on Sunday and sharing these things with you. And then very soon, after episode 20, Miss Lindsay Lippincott of the Corner Booth will be releasing our new Wattpad contest, which is pretty much, hey, the way that you enter this contest is by not entering this contest. You have somebody else, or you're entered by somebody else, essentially. We'll have more information about that in the coming weeks. We hope that you're excited. We had a great time with the first one, contest number 1. We're really excited about bringing you contest number 2. And now, as we round out this broadcast, Miss Kelly Ann Blount, I want to know all about the amazing thing called the Wattpad Block Party. How's it going?
Oh my goodness. So it is going so incredibly well. I could not be more thrilled. We've got an amazing group of authors and writers that are being featured during the entire month of July. We've actually already had over 135,000 reads in less than a month, which is insane. We've had over 9,000 votes and just under 6,000 comments. So a lot of people, what they're finding is like the best part about this is that there are a lot of Wattpad superstars out there, as well as new and undiscovered authors as well, and writers. But what's so great is the ability to communicate, especially with some of the bigger authors, because having an inbox that's always full, or having stories with thousands and thousands of comments, and they are so welcomed, I know, by the amazing authors. But the thing is, we don't always have time to write back every comment or address every comment written on our wall. So what's amazing is during the Wattpad Block Party, featured authors are interacting on their featured day, as well as throughout the rest of the month as well, but with their fans on their post. So if you have a question that you've always wanted to ask, someone as huge as Styles Legend, right? You can ask her on her post, and she is going to get back to you. So it's almost like a guaranteed conversation with some of your all-time Wattpad heroes. So it's going so well. I'm super, super thankful. And, if you haven't checked it out yet, definitely do. And we have been using the hashtag Wattpad Block Party. So if you're looking for some of the cool posts that have gone live on like Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, definitely use that hashtag and check us out. And I've had a lot of questions pop up. So just so you all know, towards the end of the month, I will have a chapter that goes up, so you can enter to have the possibility of being one of the featured authors or writers for the next event. So I will have another Wattpad Block Party. I'm excited. Even though this one's not done, I'm excited to start planning the new one, and I will have an opportunity for everyone who's interested to sign up. So stay tuned for that. And then lastly, and very importantly, we have over 100 giveaways going on, okay? 100. And anything from Wattpad Block, or not Wattpad Block Party, Wattpad t-shirts, worth their weight in gold, the amazing t-shirt that Nat's wearing tonight, story dedications, character dedications, you name it, ebooks, signed paperbacks, we have it up for grabs at the Wattpad Block Party. So check out the chapter that says giveaways are live. It'll show you the link to go to, which is actually on my blog, and you can enter all of them. They're run through Rafflecopter. Winners will be picked randomly, and I'm super excited. People are pumped. We've had thousands of people enter all of these amazing contests and giveaways. So I'm super excited. Good luck, and definitely check out the event.
Thank you so much, Kelly. And everybody has been having a blast that I've talked to. They're just having a really, really good time. The people that are actually featured, Kelly does this really cool, like, it feels like you're in a clubhouse on Facebook. It's a secret group for everybody that's a part of it. Like, we have our own secret handshake and everything. You don't have to be too jealous. But essentially what people are doing are, they're supporting each other's work. So, they'll make an amazingly just intricate JPEG image for another writer, and then they'll share it on Twitter or Facebook, and it's all for the Wattpad Block Party. And I think that's been my favorite part about the entire experience, is just to see these writers who, some of them, like you said, they're superstars, but they still support everybody else on Wattpad and these featured writers in the Block Party, and that's just incredibly humbling. And so, Kelly, you gave us the way, and a lot of people are running with it, so thank you so much for doing that. And now I want to highlight something, a little project that our very own Ashley McCowan has been working up. We're going to do an expanded information kind of broadcast. It'll be about 5 minutes, give or take, to give you a better understanding of what she wants to do. But I wanted her to be able to introduce it to you live on the air. Miss Ashlyn, can you tell us a little bit about this secret project you got?
Okay. Thanks, Nat. So recently I started this thing called No Seriously. It's an unofficial writing initiative that will highlight authors whose novels deal with topics such as eating disorders, bullying, suicide, self-harm, and depression. It will also serve as a forum for teenagers struggling with these issues, and it sort of aims to cultivate a niche community for writers seeking a readership, because it can be incredibly hard for writers that tackle those topics to find a readership, and to become a resource for readers aspiring to work through their pain and create art. The thing that I want to stress about it is that I'm trying to create a community that is extremely accessible. I'm actually going to have an open call for submission, so any writers, no matter how undiscovered, on Wattpad are welcome to submit their work as long as it pertains to the mission of the initiative, and I will work with them to post their work and promote that with the initiative. So through No Seriously, I just really hope to bring awareness to a gap in young adult fiction and to inspire more people to start taking these tough topics and the people that struggle with them seriously. So I'm very excited to have launched something like this, and I hope you guys can check it out.
And it's such a really, really good cause to stand behind. I mean, when we spoke earlier in the week, and when it was kind of, the overall premise of it was just, I mean, wow, like, come on, seriously? Like, I'm gonna have a problem with you advertising this on a broadcast? I mean, with Stained Glass Souls especially, was this something that kind of catapulted that? Like, as soon as you finished that, you wanted to do something special that kind of, address some of the things that you had been writing about?
Right. Well, I wrote Stained Glass Souls, and that sort of opened my eyes to this whole community of people struggling with things. And I just really had a burden for like a year and a half that I had to do something like this, and so I'm finally sort of putting it together, and which is really exciting. So it does all trace back to Stained Glass Souls, yes.
And with these kind of projects, and I can guarantee Ashlyn McGowan, she's going places with her life. So get on the ground floor, people, seriously. And that kind of closes our 18th episode, people. That is insane. We got episode 19 coming at you next week. More information on that later. Same time, same great channel. But I do want to talk about Just Write It. It's a hashtag that Wattpad uses. It's a challenge to write 10,000 words in 30 days. We know you can do it. It's going to be amazing. Whatever you put down, just because you're putting it down, like we've been saying in this broadcast, get it on paper, get it on Wattpad, see what happens. And tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Wattpad 4 will be getting together to talk all about the ins and outs of the writing process. And I believe they're doing something with romance, if I'm not mistaken. So, man, a lot of guys should probably be on that Twitter chat, right? Yeah, probably. So, we will see you next week. Thank you so, so much for being a part of this project and continue to push it forward. We love you to death. Panel, have you please say good night.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.